Hello and welcome to our 10th session, and in this session we are going to look into the next component that comes in this add menu of the object mode, which is the lattice. So to discuss it, I will come back to Blender here and we have the default cube here. Now I am not going to delete it. I will select it, press numpad 1 and come into the front view, and I will press S, Z, and I am going to press 3 to scale it 3 times and press enter. So now I have a cube. If I press N, you can see its dimension, which is about 2 units in X, 2 meter in Y, and 6 meter along Z. So this is a cube that I am having it. Right now, if you come into the wireframe mode, this has no segments in between. Now I have to add a few segments, and these things we will discuss it later in detail, but as of now what I will do is I am going to press tab, or I will come over here to the edit mode, and in the edit mode I will press A and select everything. I will right click and choose this option subdivide, and when I click on subdivide I have the last adjustment menu here, and right now there is one subdivision. I will click here and make 5 subdivisions. So after 5 subdivision, I will come back into the object mode, and now if you see this wireframe structure, you can see more number of segments horizontally and vertically. After doing this, I will press 1 and come into the front view, and then I will come into add. We have discussed about armature, and the next thing here we have is the lattice. So when I click on lattice, you can see in the outliner the lattice component is added, and it is just like it appears like a cube. Now I am going to press SX and I am going to scale it so that it fits my cube. Then I will press SZ and I will scale it vertically so that it fits this area like this. And see, I will scale it along Z by 6 units so that it fits correctly. Then I will rotate it, and along the Y axis I will press SY, and I am now going to scale this, and along the X I will scale it by around 2 units so that this lattice is exactly of the same size as of my cube. In the properties, you have the lattice property here. In the data property, I will come over here, and in the resolution I am going to set the number of segments in each section. Right now it is 2 to 2. I will change this to 10, 10 and 10 so that I have more segments in this lattice. So after creating this, now I will press 1 and come into the front view. Now I am going to select the cube, and for this lattice to work, I can select any of my mesh object. Right now I am selecting the cube. I have to come into the modifier, and in add modifier in deform you have one lattice modifier. I have to add this modifier, and once I add this modifier in the object, you can see this lattice object that I have created. So I am going to add this lattice object, and later on I will come back to my lattice, and then I am going to press tab and come into the edit mode. Now in the edit mode, I will drag a box and select all the vertices which are at the center, say like this. Once I select it, then I will press S to stand. If I scale it, you can see how the scaling is happening. See how it is scaled. Okay. But I doesn't want this in shape. I want it somewhat a curved shape like this. So for that, I will press Ctrl Z and cancel it. I will come over here and select this proportional editing. And now if I press S, you are seeing one circle, and that is the area of influence. Now I am going to roll the mouse down to make this area of influence bigger, and with shift pressed I will scale it so that I scale it slowly like this, and I am going to create a structure like this. So I have a lattice which has a structure like this, and I am going to press tab, and this is the structure I have for the lattice. Now I will switch off render and view of the lattice, and now I will come back into the cube, and now if I enable this shading, now you can see my cube has also taken the shape of my lattice. Now I will right click on this and click on shade smooth. Why do we use this lattice? We can actually directly modify the object like this. Lattice is nothing but a container of a particular shape. Say for example, this object is like a solid clay. Your mesh is like a solid clay, and if you put a solid clay inside another object like a mold, when you put this clay inside the mold, it will take the shape of the mold. The lattice is like a mold, and inside the mold, whatever mesh you are going to add, it is going to take that shape. And how it will be useful in our modeling is, so if I now select this cube, I will press 1 and come into the front view. I will press G, Z, and if I move it, you can now see how this cube is moving. The cube is moving as soon as it comes inside the lattice. See, it takes the shape of the lattice and then it is going to move out. So this will be very useful. Say for example, you want to create a hourglass where the sand is falling from top to bottom, and these kind of effect when you want to create, we are going to make use of this lattice. I will come to file here. I will save, and in the folder that we have in our folder, I am going to call this as 13 underscore, and I am going to call this as lattice example 1, and I am going to click on save. Now there is one more use of lattice which I want to demonstrate it here. So for that, I will come into file, new, general, and next here I am going to select my cube, press X and delete. You might have seen in the movies the universal picture title appearing around the globe in a round shape, and this kind of effect can also be created by using this lattice component along with a modifier called shrink wrap. So to exhibit this, I will come into this view now. I will press Shift A, and first I am going to add a text. I will press numpad 1, come into the front view. I will press RX90 to rotate along the x-axis. Then I will press tab, and I am now going to just type my name like this, Sudhindra SJ. I wrote my name and I will press the tab. Only thing is, I will come into the text edit over here, and in alignment along the horizontal, I will align it to the center, and vertically I will align it to the middle, and then I will come into the geometry, and in the geometry I am going to extrude it. Say I will just extrude this. You can see here I am just adding some extrude here, and once I extrude this, then I am going to come into the bevel and I am going to add some bevel depth. So here you can see I have just created this text. I will press 1 and come into the front view. Now I am going to come over here and I will call this as Sudhindra. Then I will come to add, or I will press Shift A, and I am now going to add a lattice. I will again press SX and scale it to fit my name like this, and then SZ, and I will scale it down to just fit the structure of my name like this. Now after this, again I will come into this lattice data. I am going to set this V thickness to 1. You can now see I will press 3 and come into the side view. Now you can see the lattice is at the center. The lattice is at the center. Now I will select this text, press GY, and I am going to move it forward and place it at the front like this, just in front of this like this. Adding this, I will select this lattice once again, and in the resolution along X I will set it to 10, along Y let it be 1, and along Z I will set it to 10. I will make it 40 because the width is more. I will set it to 40, 10, and you see a grid like structure created over here. This is the lattice. I am going to now select my text. I am going to come into the modifier, and I am going to add it a modifier. In deform, I will come and add this lattice modifier, and again here in the object I am going to choose my lattice. So now what happens is, if I come back and select this lattice, if I press tab, now if I come here and if I select some of the vertices here, if I press GY and move it, you can now see how my text is getting deformed as my lattice moves. So as the lattice moves, this is going to move. Now I think you are understanding the function of this lattice. I will right click and cancel it. Now I will press tab and come back. Now I will select my text and then with shift select the lattice. See that the lattice is the active object because it is light orange. Then bring the mouse into the 3D area, press Ctrl P and choose set parent. Now this text is a part of the lattice. Now next thing is, I am going to press Shift A and in mesh I am going to add a UV sphere. And after adding this, I will select this lattice object, press GY and move it forward like this. I will press numpad 1 and the sphere appears smaller compared to this size. So I will select the sphere, press S and scale it like this so that it fits my name. And then I will select the lattice, press 7 and come into the front view. Then press GY and move it forward and place it somewhere here. I want the lattice origin point. As of now, the origin point of lattice is here. So if I come to 7, if I press RZ and rotate it, see it is rotating like this. I doesn't want this. I will right click and cancel it and I want this to rotate around this sphere. Now the sphere is created at the point of origin and my cursor is at the point of origin. So what I am now going to do is, I will now select this lattice, come into object and in set origin, I am going to click on origin to 3D cursor. And when I use this option, now automatically this text moves away. Okay, so I will select this text again, press GY and move it back and place it exactly over here. I will press 3 and come into the side view, press numpad period to zoom it to this, and after this I will still zoom it further. I will press GY, move it back like this, and after this I am now going to select this lattice. If I come to the top view pressing 7 and now if I press R and rotate it, you can now see how it is rotating around this globe. But now the only thing is, I want this to rotate exactly over this sphere. So to create this effect with this lattice selected, I am going to add a modifier in deform is this shrink wrap. Adding this shrink wrap, now here you have one target. I will click on this ink filler, bring it over this sphere, and when I click on it, then immediately you can now see the text is actually sitting exactly over my sphere. Now if I press RZ and if I rotate it, see you can see it moves exactly on the surface of my sphere. So I will deselect everything and now you can see how it appears. So now you can make any object rotate like this using this lattice and shrink wrap. So right now I will come into file, I am going to click save as and I am going to call this as 14 underscore lattice shrink warp example, and I am going to save this. So I want you to practice this and create any kind of object and make it around, move it around another mesh object. In the add menu we have come up to lattice and the next thing we have is an empty. See, empty is nothing but adding a container. It is like a group. I am going to come into add and I am going to add an empty. And you have different types of empty. You have plain axis. Plain axis empty means I will press G, move it and show it to you. So this is an empty which has just one axis point. Okay, I will press X and delete it. Then another kind of empty that I have is the arrows. So if I come into the wireframe view, you can see you get only the XYZ axis here. So this we are going to use these things in the future classes. I will press X and I will delete it. Then the other kind of empty I have here is circle. So you can add an empty which is a circle. See, it is just a round circle. I will just right click, press X and delete it off. Then the next empty I have here is a cube. So if you are creating any cube shape and you want to place all your equipment inside a box, this can be used as the box. I will press X and delete it. And how to use this, I will now show you with empty sphere. So now I will add an empty sphere, press 1, and I am now going to press S and I will scale it to fit my R. And now I am going to call this as R with name. Now I am going to select my lattice, Control plus I will select the sphere, and finally I am going to select this earth with name. And then I will come over here, and if I press Control P and if I set it to parent, you can now see this earth with name empty contains the lattice, sphere and also the text. So now this entire content earth with name is one object. Say for example, I will move it over here. I will press Shift Mesh and I am going to create one more UV sphere at the center. I will slightly scale it. Say for example, this if you consider as sun and this if you consider as an earth. Now I can select this earth with name. So now I want this earth with name to rotate around the earth. Now the problem is, in case of an empty, I cannot go to object, set origin, and I cannot change it to origin to 3D cursor. This is not going to work. Now if I rotate it, see it is rotating only in this action. I want this to rotate around the sun. So in this case, I am now going to add one more empty. I will come into add empty and I am going to add this time a plane axis here at the center, and I am going to call this as center of gravity. And then I will select this earth with name. With Control plus I will select center of gravity. Then I will bring the mouse into this area, and if I press Control P and if I group this, now what happens is, if I select this center of gravity and if I rotate it, you can now see that my entire earth, I will come into the solid view and I will show it to you. So if this is the sun, if I press R and if I rotate it, R, Z and if I rotate it, you can see how this is moving. I can create one rotation like this. So to explain it to you better, I will come into the animation here. I will select this center of gravity, and then at frame number 1, I will press N and open the sidebar, and in rotation I am going to press I. Then I will come to frame number, say for example 60 here, and at 60 I am going to rotate it along the Z axis by 360 degrees, and I am going to press I again. So now what happens is, see this is rotating around this center object. Say for example, if it is sun, it is rotating around the sun. But as this is rotating, I want the lattice inside here to rotate. So for that I will come into center of gravity. I select this earth with name. I will right click and choose select hierarchy so that all the objects are selected. Now if I press numpad / again, you can now see only this object is appearing. Now I will select the lattice here, and at frame number 1 for the lattice, I will set its rotation along Z to 0 and I will add an keyframe. And at frame number 60, I am going to next add another keyframe, and along the Z axis, I will rotate it 360 degree. And now if I add it, now you can see if I again press numpad / I will come into the full view. What I am doing with numpad / I am coming into view, local view, toggle local view. This we have already discussed it. Okay, so in our object mode initial classes we have discussed what it is. So now I have come out of the toggle view, and now you can see that if I set this animation range from start 1 to end 60, and now if I play this animation and if I check it, see, you can see both my earth is rotating, and at the same time you can see the name is also rotating. So now I will come into file and I am going to click save as, and now I am going to name this as 15 underscore lattice shrink wrap underscore empty example, and I am going to save this file. So with this, we have concluded today in the add object the lattice and the empty, and in our next session we are going to discuss about this image. What is a reference image, background image and mesh plane image? This we are going to explore it in our next session, where we are going to add a reference image and we are going to trace objects and create 3D objects from 2D sketches or illustrations.